There was once a widow with 3 daughters. They were almost grown up and much of an age. And the first of them, she said to her mother, "Kill me a cock and bake me a cake, that I might go on my way." Well, it was just a form of words, and this was a poor woman. She had no cock to kill. But she made for her daughter a cake, really a loaf of bread. And she said to her daughter, "You may have half of it with my blessing, or the whole of it with my curse." And the girl looked at the cake and said, "It's small enough. I'll take the whole and risk your curse." And she went on her way. And sometime during that day she met with a poor old woman who asked her for food. And she said, "I've little enough and none for the likes of you," and went on her way. And when it was coming to night time and she must find shelter, there was a big house, a big farmhouse. And she knocked on the door and asked for shelter for the night. And they said, "You're most welcome. And we'll give you a shovelful of silver and a spadeful of gold if you'll watch the corpse of the young man of this house who has died." And she agreed. And she was put in a room where the body of the young man lay, and she was given apples and nuts to eat and a cat and dog for company. And all was well till the midnight hour, when the corpse got to its feet and stood before the girl and said, "Art thou afraid?" The girl said nothing. "Art thou afraid?" And still she said nothing. "Art thou afraid?" And still she was silent, and she was hit on the shoulder and became a grey flagstone on the ground. Now back at home, the second sister, she would go out into the world and asked her mother to kill a cock and bake a cake, and as before, the bread was made, and she too was offered half a loaf with a blessing, or the whole with a curse. And she looked at it and said, "I will take the whole and risk your curse." And she went on her way and met an old woman to whom she would give no food. And as night was drawing nigh, she came to that same farmhouse, and was offered, as her sister, silver and gold to watch the corpse of the young man. And into the room she was put with a body, with apples and nuts and a cat and a dog. And all was well till the midnight hour, when the corpse of that young man stood before her and said, "Art thou afraid?" Nothing was said. Twice more she was asked, and twice more she said nothing, and she too was hit on the shoulder, and became a grey flagstone on the floor. And now it was the youngest's turn. And as before, a cake was baked, and she it was who chose half with a blessing, and went on her way, and you'll not be surprised to know she met that same old woman. And when she was asked for food, perhaps because she was a kind girl, or perhaps because she had her mother's blessing, she said, "I have little enough, but you're welcome to share it," and gave the old woman some of that bread. And the old woman said, "I've nothing to give you but advice. Answer when you're questioned, do as you are dared, and once on the path, don't turn back." The girl didn't know what it meant, but it seemed good enough advice, and so she went on her way. And she too came to the rich farmhouse, and was offered a shovelful of silver and a spadeful of gold to watch the corpse of the young man, and was put in the room with the cat and the dog, and apples and nuts. And she looked at the body and thought what a shame it was that he was dead, for he was a nice-looking young man. And as before, all was well to the midnight hour, when the corpse stood before her, saying, "Art thou afraid?" And the first time she said nothing, and then she remembered, "Answer when you're questioned." So she said, I've Juice the dog and Pussy the cat. I've apples to eat and nuts to crack. I'm not afraid. And she was asked again, and gained the same reply. Not afraid to follow me across the quaking bog, through the forest of fire, into the caves of terror, up the glass mountain and down into the sea of death. And the girl just said, I've been paid to mind you. I will follow you. For she remembered, do as you are dared. And so that young body went out of the window and the girl followed. And they came to a green hill. And the young man said, Open, and let the young corpse through. And the girl said, And the fair girl too. And they were through. And there they were, at the edge of a quaking bog. Well, the corpse just seemed to float across the surface, but how was a human girl to cross such a marshy land? But there was the old woman, now a young woman, and she touched the girl's shoes, and they spread, and she was able to cross the bog. And there, at the entrance to the forest of fire, was the woman again with a damp cloak to throw about the girl's shoulders, so that she wouldn't burn. And they were through. And by the caves of terror was the woman with wax to put in the girl's ears, so that she wouldn't hear the screams and torments of the damned, though she saw many evil things. But at last they were through and at the foot of the glass mountain. Again, the young body just went up. What was she to do? But the woman was there again with honey to put on the girl's soles, so that she would stick as up she went. And when they got to the top, the young corpse turned to her and said, You've come far enough. Go back and tell my mother how far you've come. But she just said, I've been paid to mind you, and mind you I will. For she remembered, once in the path, don't turn back. And the corpse dived off that mountain, down into the sea of death, and the girl jumped too. Down, down through the green water, till they seemed to be in a meadow, and she was lying with her head on that of a young man, and then she was in a bed in that same farmhouse that she'd been in, with the corpse, now a young man alive, bending over her, and with his mother. It seemed that a witch would have married him, and since he wouldn't marry one such as that, he was condemned forever to be between the sky and the earth, between life and death, till one should be brave enough to follow. And now they had. Well, since this is but a story, you can imagine that she married that rich young farmer. Her sisters took their normal form, and all lived happily, as I hope we may.